One bright day in the middle of the night, two dead boys got up to fight. Back to back, they faced each other, drew their swords, and shot each other. The deaf policeman heard the noise, came and shot the two dead boys. If you don't believe this lie is true, ask the blind man. He saw it too. Hello everyone! So we are back at 31 Days of Halloween with The Haunting in Connecticut, and I emphasize the because there is apparently a haunting in Connecticut, completely unrelated to the 2009 movie that we're going to be talking about today, and which scarred me for life as a child. So, and I say child, but I was really like in my early 20s when I first saw this movie, and it still traumatized me. Partially because it was based on a true story. And I put it in quotes because the more that I read up on about it, the more I discovered that that wasn't necessarily true. But in this The Haunting in Connecticut movie, the Campbell movie, who represent the real-life Snedeker family, moved to this house, or they rent this house in Connecticut in order to be closer to the hospital that their son, Matt, has to get his cancer treatments at. So they decide to move to this house so that it's an easier trip for him to get the cancer treatments and not have to drive so far to go back home. As you would expect in a sort of demonic possession, haunted house type movie, very shortly after they move in, weird things start to happen. The boy Matt is seeing visions, he's acting erratically, and the family comes to learn that the house was built, or the house used to have a mortuary inside of it. So, basement was for the dead people. They would do the embalming down there. They did viewings there. They also find something that I thought was really interesting, which was post-mortem photography. So they find a lot of these photographs around the house, and at first they don't realize what they are. They just say like, oh, old-timey photos. Look how neat this is. And then as you watch them, like looking at the pictures, you realize, oh, this is post-mortem photography, which was a big thing in the 1800s because we had a lot of, and I say we, but I don't just mean like America, I mean like everywhere around the world. A lot of people died, or a lot of kids died before they even reached the age of 5. So people didn't have anything to remember their kids or anything by, so they would have either pictures taken of the dead person or the dead baby, the dead kid, or they would have like family photos done with the dead person or the dead kid, because that may be the only time this person had their photo taken, or it could have been the first time this person had their photo taken. And this was also done, it was a lot easier to take a picture of a dead person than it was to take a picture of a living person, because cameras were very different back then. It's not like now where you can kind of point and click and you get a picture. You had to sit very still while the camera developed on the plate that was inside of it. So you would have to sit for, I don't know, like 15 to 30 minutes completely still, otherwise you'd blur the picture. If you're dead, nobody has to worry about how long it takes for the picture to develop because you're not going anywhere anyway. But I just thought the whole post-mortem photography thing was an interesting addition to it because it's realistic for that time period where this house was apparently a mortuary. Because they definitely would have been doing these post-mortem shots. And the fact that you find them, like, it's just creepy in general. Even if you had a house that wasn't a mortuary previously or didn't have any history of haunting, it would be so creepy to go into your house and find pictures of dead people. And not like, oh, like, this is my grandma. She died 80 years ago. Here she is eating her birthday cake. It's, here's grandma. We propped her up in bed and sat with her to take a picture of her while she was dead. It's just, it lends itself to the creepiness, at least for me. Movie progresses. I think it's personally still very creepy. This terrified me when I saw it the first time. And part of it was because I hadn't yet learned that when something says based on real events, it's very, very loosely based on real events. Most of the stuff that happens in the movie didn't actually happen in real life. And a lot of people have questioned whether the Snedekers are even being truthful about what happened. Um, the book that the movie is based off of, the author has actually come out and said that he made up a lot of the book, and part of that is because when he was invited to write the story, it was by Ed and Lorraine Warren, who you will know from movies like The Conjuring and from Annabelle and all that other stuff. He said that when the author of the book, when he was interviewing the family members, he noticed that none of their stories were lining up. And when he asked Ed Warren about it, Ed Warren allegedly said that the family was crazy and that the author should just take whatever he can from what they're giving him and just make the book really scary. So I say allegedly because this information came out after Ed Warren passed, so he can't necessarily defend himself. I know the Warrens are kind of controversial in general, so it may not be too much of a stretch that they said that. Um, but they do have some other stuff that may be a little more credible, like the Conjuring houses. I think that the Conjuring series that may be a little more credible. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this other movie, The Haunting in Connecticut, which apparently was not really based on anything. People came out and said, "Oh, that house was never haunted." It's almost kind of like the Amityville house, where you have this one incident where this man goes and murders his entire family, blames it on evil spirits, but nobody before or after has really had any problems in the story. So some people feel that because Amityville happened shortly before the Snedeker incident happened, people feel that they were trying to take advantage of the whole haunted house thing to get money, get a book deal, get a movie deal, whatever, the same way that the family and that the Amityville Horror House had made money off of this stuff. A couple of reasons why this movie was still very scary for me is that it still maintains, like, it has creepy atmospherics, and one of the criticisms people tended to have was that it has too many jump scares. I didn't think they were really jump scares. I thought they were really well placed. There's a lot of moments where doors open and the doors happen to have mirrors on them, and you catch glimpses of like scary figures in the mirrors, or you focus on a character and there's like something kind of in the background that you don't really notice until the camera angle changes a little, or like a light turns on and all of a sudden something else is there. I think they were genuinely good scares and not like your cheap kind of jump scares. I also thought, like I said, the atmospherics were really good. The tones of the movie, the way the lighting is, the way the characters act, their acting skills are pretty good. So I think it carries the movie. The storyline isn't that great. There are some issues that I have with it, like certain things the characters do aren't necessarily believable. There's a whole religious theme that the director tries to put in, but it doesn't necessarily carry through. Like in the beginning, the mother has a cross and she's praying all the time, and then she kind of just stops praying, and then you never hear about the religion again. There's also a priest character that she gets mad at, but like there's really no direct connection between her loss of religion to why she doesn't like the priest. So the continuity of that wasn't great. So before I go into some spoilery things, let's talk about the ratings. It did not get great ratings on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. So IMDb gave it something like a 5.6, 5.8. And then Rotten Tomatoes, it doesn't even have a critic score, and the regular people score is a 58. I rated it a little higher, and so did the person that I watched it with. We both gave it a 7, mostly because we liked the scares and the atmospherics. Like, at one point, there was a scare, and he jumped and, like, yelped, and I didn't get scared at that point, but there were other scares that got me. So, I didn't want to be swayed by this movie and, like, carry my old fear into it. So I think I did a good job of doing that because I didn't cry at the end of it when I was trying to go to sleep and I was afraid that there were going to be monsters coming to kill me. So I can understand why they may give it a lower score, but I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I would recommend seeing it. Just, kind of go into it without expecting great things. It's definitely not like a great movie. It's probably like a middle grade movie. So maybe a 7 is a little too high. Maybe it's more like a 6. But I don't think that a lot of the criticism is really warranted. Um, so I'm going to talk about some spoilery things, which includes why this movie made me cry, and then some of the issues that I had that, like with the ending, about continuity and stuff. So if you haven't seen the movie, if you don't want to hear that stuff, check out now. But still, come see me for the next one. So we're going to get into it. Hope you're gone. To everybody else who stayed, the reason why this movie made me cry is because of the end where Jonas slash Matt is breaking down the house and he's trying to set it on fire and all the bodies are coming out of the walls, and I'm traumatized by this movie at that point because of how scary everything had been, or I had perceived everything to be so scary. And after the movie, I'm like terrified, and my friends turn to me and go, "How do you know there's not dead bodies buried in the walls of your house?" And that was it. I was done. I cried. I would not go to sleep. I slept. I don't think I even turned the lights off. I was so afraid that something was going to come out of the walls of my bedroom, which is completely unrealistic, and kill me in my sleep. So I did not have those problems this time. The only problems I had were kind of with the continuity. So like I said, with the religious theme, it's not carried through very well. There is also where Matt slash Jonas is breaking into the house and the niece tells Wendy, or not Wendy, tells Mary to go run and hide. And then nobody ever collects Wendy, but Wendy is, not Wendy. Nobody ever goes to get Mary out of whatever hiding place she had, but she's out of the house and not in danger of the fire at the end. And then Matt also has the writing on his face and his body, which is what Aikman was doing to create the necromancy so that Jonas could do these seances. And the depth and redness of these marks changes throughout Matt having them on his skin. So that I wasn't really a fan of. Like, if you're going to make them fade because, like, they're not as, like, there anymore or whatever the director was trying to convey, like, at least keep the fading consistent. And that wasn't done. So that was kind of annoying for me. The only other thing I didn't care for was when you discover, like, that Jonas didn't actually kill everybody. It was the evil spirits in the house that did it during the seance. And you find out Aikman dies, and, like, he's the actual bad guy and not Jonas. Aikman kind of, like, isn't even an issue after that. He was kind of supposed to be, or in my opinion, like, the villainous guy. And nothing ever really gets done with him. Like, you're led to believe that it's Jonas for most of the film, and then you find out, oh, it's not Jonas. It's really all these evil spirit entities. When you thought it was probably Aikman, because Aikman is snatching Jonas and dragging him, and Jonas is crying and screaming, and Aikman is doing the necromancy and whatever. But then it turns out to just be these evil spirits who kind of don't do anything to stop Matt from digging the bodies out of the wall and setting the house on fire. I guess it would have made the movie have a longer runtime. Maybe they didn't have enough of a budget to really do anything with the evil spirits as a whole to fight with Matt. Whatever it was, it kind of left me wondering, what was all this build up for with Aikman if you were just going to blame the evil spirits and then not even have the evil spirits to do anything. So I guess that kind of makes me want to lower the score more to a 6. 6, 7, it's still kind of like middle range. I guess 7 is like the higher end of middle. You got your like 4, 5, 6, and like your 7 can be like an upper middle or a low high. So yeah, I guess maybe a 6. But that is The Haunting in Connecticut. I would say go see it just to say that you saw it. There is a sequel, which I haven't seen. I don't understand how you call the sequel The Haunting in Connecticut, Georgia Ghosts, because Connecticut's all the way up there and Georgia's all the way down there. They're not related at all, but sure. Maybe they just wanted to do an anthology type thing and they never got past the second one because the first one wasn't good enough. Well, first one didn't warrant having a sequel, and the second one I never made it to theaters, so it probably isn't even that good. But anyway, if you like this movie, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your other horror pals, anybody who might be interested. Thanks for sticking around for the whole show, or even if you cut out for the spoilers and then came back. Oh boy, I'm knocking things over. I'm just so excited to be talking to all of you. But thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you come back for the next one, and I will see you on the other side. Actually, wait, turn it off.